I'm going to show you guys some things that you might know or you might not know about the SA200s. I'm going to start out with a early 50s model SA200 short hood. They have the dome main brush cover. They also have the 4-selector switch. They have the small neck gas tank. Instead of the 4-inch, they have the 2-inch. And then they have the non-pressurized tank that actually holds about a gallon more coolant. So this model short hood is what they started doing near the end, where they changed the main cover, and I think they did that like mid to late 50s. And then they went to a 4-inch fuel neck, and then they went to a pressurized radiator, but it was still in the short hood in the last 2 years. And they had a bolt-on radiator cover on the outside, which was obvious for this transition year. Okay, so now we're going to transition from the short hood to the long hood. The difference was they wanted to try to keep the weld consistency of the short hood into the next generation. So what they did was they split the 4-selector into a 5-selector, which gives you different weld capabilities of this machine transitioning forward. But everybody liked the short hood, everybody liked the way that the short hood welded because of the DC current that it had. So they wanted to continue that with this, but give you more options as far as of how much control you would have over your weld by giving you a 5-selector. Now they look completely different than what the short hood did. Now this one has a copper bar. This is unique for the 3 years of the long hood. They also still had the small faceplate, but they had a 5-selector instead of a 4-selector. The other thing that was still continued over to that era was the bolt-on radiator cover. So the bolt-on radiator cover went away in 1959. Then they went to a one-piece radiator cover. The long hood code was a 3000 code. 3555 was the last one of the long hood. Then they went into a 4000 code, which there's an error right behind this one that still had a small black faceplate, 5-selector, but they changed from the copper straps to the weld lugs that you know on all the current ones today. It still had the long armature, and the way you tell is that these 2 bolt holes are shown out past the front panel, and they have more copper than what the newer red faces have, and they still have that weld characteristics that everybody wanted. Then they went into the 1962 blue dial, which is this machine here, and basically this was a anniversary commemorative faceplate that Lincoln put out from the beginning of their stick mode all the way up until this current one. So it was just a way to show off their history of doing the blue dial. Some people think that it was military issue and the stator was wound a certain way, but basically these welded the same way the short hoods did and the same way the long hoods did, because they still had the long armature and had all of the copper characteristics of the earlier models. Okay, so we just talked about the blue face. We're missing an era, but I'm going to explain what we're missing. We're missing the 5000 series machines. They still had a 2-piece front panel. They had the shorter armature. So if you were to look at the stator, you'll notice that now this second bolt is almost behind the front edge of the panel because they changed design in 1963 and they went to a shorter armature. Actually, 63 was all by itself. In 64, they changed to a shorter armature and a shorter stator end bell assembly. And those were the 2 that were in the 5000 series. They still had the F-162 engine instead of the Continental F-163 engine. In 1967, they went to the single-piece front panel. They went to a smaller faceplate, still red. This is the 6000 series machines. The 6000 series machines were still copper wound, and you can tell that by the round shape of the stator instead of an octagon where it has flat spots in it, which we'll go over a little bit later. Also, what you might not know is in this line right here, all of the code numbers are stamped right there. This way to tell the difference between an F-163 and an F-162 is that the F-163 has a sheet metal assembly that you add your oil into, and it also has a sheet metal oil cap. So now we're going to get into the 7000 series blackface. So this is the first era of the aluminum wound unit, and now they've gotten away from the copper wound units. So this code is a 7307, which is right around in that beginning of that era. So what you're going to find is This assembly's pretty much the same in the front, but what they did was they moved their controls, your start, stop, and everything to the front panel, made it a green light. They also went with a bigger battery box, so now you can fit a Group 24 battery in it instead of a smaller battery. The reason that they had smaller batteries back then is because when the short hood era was in, they were a 6-volt battery instead of a 12-volt battery. One of the changes that they made in this era is they went to a Motorola alternator and a voltage regulator. That was one of the main changes they made here. This is what you guys know as a R57 vacuum box. This is what they used to be able to strike an arc. This arm would pull forward, it would release and allow the carburetor to go to wide open throttle or mid-range speed, which would be the 1400 or the 1550, and that's when you would be able to start welding. The problem with this is that you couldn't use a grinder with it and have it release also. So what they did was they went with electronic solenoid, got rid of this box and went with electronic solenoid that has a T-handle on the carburetor that allowed you now to be able to strike an arc and have it kick to high speed. Then you were able to use your grinder, and when you would hit the trigger, it would sense it and it would also kick to high idle so that you wouldn't have to go use this and pin it. They have a pin right here that they would pin this to high idle, and then it would no longer go to low idle, but you could use your grinder and be able to weld. So people wanted to be able to get the fuel economy of going to low idle. So they got rid of this and went with the other style so that you could use both. The only error that we left out was the code 8000, which they went away from the magneto and went to a points distributor. And then they used the points distributor all the way out to 1992. That's kind of a gist of how these machines transitioned from era to era. And I probably got some of this stuff wrong. I'd love to hear from you if I did. We love working on this stuff. We work on all the different eras. And you notice that most of these machines that I've been showing you need some love. Hope you guys learned something today. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. Have a good day.